Get out!
Greetings programs! Welcome to a little video today I'm going to do on Kerbal Space Program. This was actually gifted to me in Steam by Manti111, who I think I'm right in saying has gifted me something in World of Tanks before. So he's one of my regular World of Tanks channel viewers, probably watches the stream as well. But he thought I might like this game, and it turns out that I do an awful lot. So enough of the pretty, let's turn the HUD back on. I don't think I'm going to make this a kind of regular series. I might do occasional videos, but I'm already doing, apart from World of Tanks, I'm doing Crusader Kings 2 at the moment, and I might alternate with Crusader Kings 2 and maybe another Paradox game, like say EU4 or I don't know, whatever. There are others. I've lost my train of thought now. Minecraft and FTL is the one I've just started, so I don't want to. My original intent with doing other games was that I would only put up those videos on a day when I also had tanks content to put out. My internet sucks, so I can't do that, but I'm trying to at least do for every kind of non-tanks video I'm doing maybe one. Wow, three rather. Numbers are so kind to me, and my brain is also so kind to me, and Caption Guy is the kindest of all. Uh, Yeah, I'm trying a ratio of 3 to 1. I hope that's working. So I'm not going to make this a tremendously long video, but I'm just going to do a little mission. Or rather continue a mission, because I've already launched this thing into space, as you can see. Now, these are basically empty fuel tanks, and I'm going to attach them to something with these ports here. But to do that, you need to get it into orbit first. So what we're going to do is, with the aid of my trusty mechanical mech-jeb, and yes, I'm using mech-jeb, which is a mod which it's a flight computer. Basically, it does a lot of stuff for you. You get a lot of useful information as well. Like, for instance, I can click this button and see exactly how much delta V I've got. And, well, I could sit and explain about delta V, but I don't really understand the technicalities. It's just delta V equals your ability to move around in space, basically. Because this game, it's very much a sandbox, it's very much an alpha, but a lot like the early releases of Minecraft, it's a very playable alpha. There's still a lot to do. But actually, come to think of it, there's a lot of parallels with Minecraft, because it's a sandbox game. You can just kind of muck around, do your own thing. Even in career mode, it's still incredibly sandbox. There's a lot of mods available. It involves building stuff. It rewards setting your own goals. Yeah, no, there are a lot of parallels. Come to think of it, I would not be surprised if the developer squad has looked at what Moyanga's done and kind of followed that fairly carefully. But I'm using one of the mods, which, like I said, mech-jeb, and I can get into orbit from Kerbin itself with no problem. Although then adjusting that orbit to be something that I want, kind of a problem. Whereas mech-jeb will do it and will get you exactly the orbit you want and just be very precise about it. So I should stop talking for a moment and actually set this up. So we want a Rendezvous Autopilot, and that will basically get me on the same plane and match velocities with a target so that I can then perform a docking procedure. There we go. The Kia space station. Yeah, I wonder what that was inspired by. So that is in a 100-kilometer orbit. So how it works is we have to go further outside that orbit and then basically sort of come in, and you come in from slightly ahead actually, and then you sort of slow down and intersect. Although that doesn't always do that with the autopilot, but that's kind of like the ideal way of doing it. So we'll set separation distance for 130. I like to make the margin a little bit higher. And we'll put auto warp on as well, because one of the features of this game is you can actually fast forward a bit. And auto warp means it will handle it all for you, and that leaves me free to sit and talk. So there we go, a little burst of the engines. So what I'm doing basically is I've launched a space station frame into orbit, and I'm going to attach bits into it, and then I'm going to boost it into a higher orbit. So there's no purpose to me doing this in terms of game reward. The game hasn't said, oh, you have to do this. This is just me doing it because I want to try it, and also having a station there is also a staging point, really. The Kerbins themselves, the astronauts that you will actually just jump inside the capsule and you can actually see them in there. This is one of the capsules you can't actually see out of because it's one of the space plane control capsules, but the Kerbin astronauts themselves basically don't do anything at the moment. You can use them to gather a bit of science, which is essentially the currency you'd pay to research stuff in the tech tree in the career mode, which is pretty much the only difference between career mode and sandbox mode at the moment is the fact that there's this research tech tree that you actually have to go and collect science data for, and then you research stuff. Other than that, you can use them to, with some of the mods, you can use them to move stuff around physically. They can get out little toolboxes and stuff. But in the vanilla game, they don't do all that much. And they do actually have two attributes that, again, at the moment don't do anything. This game, I should say, I'm recording this with 0.23.5. So this is very much, like I said, an alpha, but it's a very playable alpha. There's a lot in here that is just at the moment kind of missing, but reassuringly, when you go and look at the devs page, they say that it's just kind of a shadow of what they want it to be. How far they'll actually get remains to be seen. It does also it crashes sort of more than one would like, but not that often, fortunately. And I'm really hoping it doesn't crash while I'm recording this. The frame rate is also holding up quite well because there aren't many parts on this spacecraft. One of the problems with this game at the moment, and I don't know if that's something they can really overcome, is the fact that spacecraft with more than 200 parts, 250 parts rather, the game really, and the frame rate tanks because the game is struggling to cope with calculating the physical properties, the physics properties of what's happening to those parts, basically. So because this is a relatively simple spacecraft, and because I've ditched a lot of the ascent stage stuff that came with the spacecraft, it's the frame rate's holding up quite nicely. We're puttering along at 60 frames per second. But there are other spacecraft I've built which aren't even 250. I think they're all around about the most complicated one's probably about 210, where the frame rate when I'm launching one of those, even when I've got one in space and I've shed all the stuff that I used to launch me up there, it's still about 15 frames per second. It's not that bad, but it kind of kills any. You can't make big massive space stations, for instance. You can't go and make big massive moon bases because once you get more than a certain number of parts in close proximity, the game just grinds to a halt. So that is a definite limitation of the game as it is at the moment, which is a pity, because it would be really cool to go and build a replica of Moonbase Alpha, but no, you can't do that right now, alas. But there is still a lot that's really fun in this, and I think for a lot of people the fact that it's kind of a realistic, semi-realistic physics sandbox simulator style thing, that's the appeal, but there's also the appeal of building your own spacecraft, and that's the part I'm really enjoying, is making my own spacecraft and kind of tweaking designs, trying new iterations, seeing what other people have done. I recently learned of a thing called Asparagus staging, which is apparently the most fuel-efficient way to get your Kerbin spacecraft into orbit anyway. In real life it didn't work. There was a Soviet Russian designer actually came up with it, and basically it involves the way fuel works in this is that it can basically be effortlessly pumped between different fuel tanks even when you're in flight. That isn't the case for a real rocket. That would be an almost dangerous level of complexity. I should also, I think I might have my mouse cursor turned off while I'm recording this actually, so you'll see the parts lighting up as I mouse over them, but you can't see my mouse cursor, so it might look a little strange. Anyway, that's a bunch of debris in the distance there, so we're probably getting quite close. We'll just check the orbital map. Yeah, we're not far off now. We're actually quite close, so we'll actually see if we can see it. There we go. So we're coming in slightly ahead, and you can see there the autopilot is putting me in an attitude, attitude to basically decelerate into the same orbit as the Kia Alpha, and I'm calling it Alpha because it's the first one. But now I've built the framework, I can basically just launch these things into space. And that was another way in that it's completely sandbox. There's no currency, which is fine by me, but the fact that there's also no time cost. Time should be the currency in this, really, because you can basically spam rockets into space and there's nothing to stop you doing that. Whereas, given that there's only one launch facility in the whole of Kerbin, and apparently nothing else, Kerbin is actually quite an empty planet, all things considered. But I'm sure their priority was, getting the space part of the game working. But the fact that you can just spam rockets into space is a little bit kind of silly. But hey, alpha. So they're working on all the kind of the physics stuff and the core gameplay mechanics before they add a bit more complexity to the game. But there's actually a lot. The modding community has done a lot. They've actually produced mods. There's ones that introduce concepts of are we not firing? Let me just check Delta V. Sometimes it goes a bit weird. No, we are actually... It didn't stage itself. I wasn't paying attention. I was talking, and now we have shot way past the node, so it's probably going to struggle a bit. But we've got plenty of fuel in this stage. I forgot what I was going to say there now. Mods. Oh yeah, so people have added mods for things like re-entry is actually kind of deadly. There are various mods that make the aerodynamics a bit more realistic, because there's a whole other side to the game which is basically planes and space planes, and you can muck around with various parts to do that, jet engines, that kind of thing. So there's mod packs that kind of expand that whole side of the game. There's mod packs for life support systems, basically. So you suddenly, because at the moment your Kerbals can basically float around in space indefinitely with no ill effects whatsoever. But there's a life support mod which I might try at some point, which requires you to keep your Kerbals alive. Because if you don't, they won't be very happy if they run out of food and air and whatever. Whereas at the moment, you could basically chuck a Kerbal out. I could get this guy, Jebediah Kerman, I could actually chuck him out of the space capsule into orbit, and he'd just float around quite happily forever, basically. We're getting quite close now, so I'd better pay attention a bit more. Right, well, we want the docking thingy. There's also an interesting one that adds communications limitations as a concept. So you have kind of limited range with your antennas, and you have to build a communication satellite network, but that isn't actually yet updated for the most recent version of the game, so I'm not using that. And there's so many more besides. The majority of them add things like new parts, new engines, but you get some that do make some quite significant changes. I'm not using that many myself. I'll see if I can just bring up the folder actually. There's obviously Mech Jeb. There's actually two of them are Mech Jeb. One's Mech Jeb and one's a kind of a reskinning of Mech Jeb, and it has a little HAL 9000 style casing, which is quite funny. KW Rocketry, that's another one. Where is this folder? It's somewhere. This is probably not very interesting to listen to, but you know what? I'll just look it up and put it on screen. How about I just do that? So we don't need that anymore. Right, this is going to be interesting. I haven't tried docking. Up until now, all my docking has been with a variety of docking port that came with one of the mods, and it was a bit wonky, to be honest. It would dock sometimes, and other times the docking autopilot would just kind of faff around and not know what to do. And that was a bit of a pain. So here we go. This is the Kia Alpha space station with 4 big solar panels. I literally just launched it with a framework, infrastructure, things like RCS fuel tanks, battery, well, just batteries. These expansion ports, and there's also a command pod, which is basically the 3-man command pod that's going to be like the escape module on the ISS, for instance. So it's nothing like any real space station, but it's going to have my plan for these the empty fuel tanks. I'm going to connect those so I can also use it as a bit of an orbital fuel depot. I have got one already, but it's basically a big flying fuel tank that only exists for that purpose. So this is going to be a bit more multi-purpose. And then I've also got some spaces for modules and stuff when I get those unlocked. So I'll check that middle one as target. Enable autopilot, which will basically then only use RCS for maneuvering, and RCS is different than your regular propulsion system because it's very, very low thrust, but it is very useful for fine maneuvering, and it's possibly going to be a bit slow paced, this part. Actually, it depends. Moving towards starting point, this is well, staring point. There's a little this might be, I might be cutting the video here short actually, because this is the problem I was having with the docking autopilot. We're now close enough that I can, in theory, go over there and do it all manually, dock manually, and it'll be fine. Except I am really terrible with the docking controls. You know what? Let's try it anyway. This is going to be a massive challenge. Can I? Oh God, can I remember? Okay. When you staging mode, and staging is how you basically discard bits of rocket. There are also things called action groups. I don't know about it yet, but when you switch to docking mode, and there is a really good mod for docking called something docking by a guy called Navyfish. I have not been able to. I tried installing it and it did not play well with, I think, MechJeb maybe, or it conflicted with something. I can kill that window. Right, am I... Oh, dear. Okay, the thing is, I'm so... it's like getting my head around the controls. So, okay, that's sideways, I think. What's up? Oh, that's up and down, so control... yeah, that's up and down. Okay, we've got plenty of RCS fuel. I've got actually way more than I need. But my problem is actually... no, not that way. I can't. I'm really bad at doing this in space. If we kill the kill rotation button, there's various modes with this. That it's quite nice actually. In career mode, the guy, whoever it is that's done MechJeb, has made it so that you unlock parts of MechJeb as you go along. Right. So that. Oh, I see. Q&E gives me spin. So okay. I probably... How am I can't really see how I'm oriented relative to the... I don't want to come crashing into one of those solar panels. That would be quite a bad thing. So actually, let's pull in backwards slightly. The other thing is, I can maneuver around, but it's... oh, can I... this is going to involve thrusting in multiple directions at once, isn't it? This is going to be horrible. If I go, oh God, I can't. It's kind of like the react, because it's RCS. It's going the opposite way that you're thrusting. So, if I want to go left, I thrust right, basically. If that makes any sense. So, we'll try the autopilot one more time. I'm totally panicking here. I can't. I just, it's getting my head around this is, I don't know, this is probably why I suck at War Thunder as well. You introduce an extra dimension and suddenly my brain just goes, nope! Okay, set as docking target. And we're actually moving now. Okay, we'll put it 0.5. So here we go. MechJeb is apparently very, very fuel inefficient when it comes to doing RCS docking, but have I got lights on this thing? Oh yes, I do. There we go. But I actually don't mind that so much. I would just like to not crash into the space station and have to start all over again and launch another one. There is a quick save system. You can basically hit F5 at any time and it'll quick save, and then F9 to load that quick save. But it's... No, see, we've just come to a dead halt again. Moving towards the staring point, I think it does mean starting point, at 0 meters per second. But we're actually, maybe it's just waiting this time, because we are slowly crawling towards the thing. Unless I have to take control and stop us crashing into it. I don't know why it freaks out. I don't know. Actually, no, I did read a thing. If I may have. One of the things I don't like about this game is there is no way to pause it, and well, you can go bring up the pause menu, but you can't pause it and look around and issue orders and do things. So switch back control, and then and docking's a bit fiddly to be honest, because you have to be close enough to select the docking ports that you want. But it can be. So I'll go unset target. So we'll set that middle clamp, and then I will. Whoa, getting a bit close. Control from here. Autopilot enabled. Yeah, it's kind of like it's very easy because you once you get out of the Kerbin's atmosphere, it's all about momentum, and you could so easily just smash into things when you're trying to do fine maneuvering. I do not have the reflexes for this fine maneuvering at all, so hell yes, I'm using MechJair, but I know it's basically training wheels for a lot of stuff. But it's the first couple of launches were kind of cool, and then after that, it's like, yeah, okay, I'm launching a rocket again. At least for me, the launching stuff into space and all the maneuvering around, and that's not the cool part. It's the building stuff and tweaking and designing and see how things work. And also, landing on planets is quite nice as well. But so far, I've only successfully landed on wow, zoom all the way out. I've only successfully landed on the outer moon, Minmus, because it's got very low gravity. It's very easy to land on. I've tried a couple of unmanned landers on the Mun, or Moon. It's supposed to be Moon, but it's it's a bigger body. It's got higher gravity, and so far all I've done is make new craters. But they were only unmanned ones. I don't think I've actually lost any astronauts so far, or Kerbonauts, whatever they're meant to be called. Now, is this actually? It's creeping forward, and we're going in the vaguely. It's hard to tell if it's One of the nice things about MechJeb is it tells you what it's doing, what stage it's at, basically. But now, this is new because I'm trying to dock 3 docking ports at once. In theory, it's fine, but you've got to have the rotation exactly right. So if I set force roll to 0, okay, there we go. So I think that's 0 degrees in relation to this. So in theory, oh god, if this goes according to plan, we'll have docked a couple of empty fuel tanks, and then I can send. I've actually got spaces on both sides, so I'm going to have 2 groups of fuel tanks sticking out. I could do more, but there's that parts problem to worry about, so I won't be able to have that much fuel for people on this, but there will be at least some fuel, and they'll be able to come here and refuel once in orbit. One of the things I want to do is build a space tug, because you can, with the parts staging, you can end up with a bunch of stuff floating around in orbit. You can just go into the space center, which is your home base, whatever, where you build everything, and you get a list of your currently active vehicles. Actually, I'll show you that after this is finished, and we can see what else is floating around before I wrap up the video. I think this might work, we're not going too fast. Last time I tried this, it parked just slightly to the left, and that's the only time I've managed to do a manual docking. Oh, is that coming in a bit high? Basically, yeah, when Autopilot gets it really close and then just kind of flubs it, but doesn't actually crash in. But yeah, you can basically remove space debris manually, or automatically rather. Well, that's going to plug, but it's going to plug the wrong ones. Wow, that's going to look so derpy. So there we are. We have actually attached. I'll select the kill rotation option. So we're just kind of wasting our CS fuel at the moment. So we are technically docked with the space station, but that's kind of derpy. Good enough for now, but we'll probably detach these at some point and come in for another try. I might go with like the outermost ones or something. The rotation's fine. Maybe next time I do, you get also what am I thinking of? You get why is the RCS not turning off? Oh, there we go. You get connectors like these, which are kind of a triangular shape, and those might be easier, but there's still the potential to fluff that up. Anyway, that procedure actually worked, kind of. kind of. Yeah, we've got enough fuel and everything in this particular I don't know, tug vehicle, whatever you want to call it, to try that again at some point. But we'll quickly flick down to the Space Center, have a look at what else I've got going, and then we'll wrap up this video because this is actually going to turn into like a half-hour video. Also, I want to say if I'm sounding slightly different than usual, I'm using Bandicam to record everything because when I use Audacity, because it drops frames in places, I'm trusting that Bandicam will at least keep the audio in sync with the video, which isn't always the case. So here we go. This is my current fleet. There's not that much really. That is actually not really a probe. It's just a bit of debris that's behind something. We'll have a look at that though. That's my current Minmus lander, which I'm using to collect science data from Minmus. It's a bit unwieldy. It's a bit silly getting it into the thing I used to get it into orbit is a bit, yeah, but it works. And this is actually about the third iteration of this particular design. So it's actually a two-stage vehicle. That bit of debris over there, it's marked as a probe because I've got a control unit on it. Because I thought I'll put a control unit on it and then I can use a tiny bit of fuel that's left in that big tank and just deorbit it and it'll smash harmlessly into the planet. But I forgot to actually put any way of controlling it to turn it so I could activate the engine and thrust. At the moment I could thrust it, but it would just accelerate along its orbit or even get into a... Actually no, it would just accelerate along its orbit because I can't control its attitude at all. Anyway, so this is a lander. It's actually got a couple of landing legs. I'll just activate those just now because, you know, why not? These are various experiment pods. We've got a... we'll just take this guy out on a... Whoa! On a little EVA who's gone flying out all over the place. That was not intentional. That was very definitely not intentional. Fortunately, you get loads of RCS fuel. The game is fairly forgiving in that regard, but as you can see, even just controlling the... Oh, for goodness sake. This guy in... no, up. We want up. We don't want to fly away. We want to go back to the spacecraft and not fly around. You can actually, like... On Minmus anyway, because the gravity is so low. Whoa, down a bit, down. Oh, wrong key. I literally have to look at the keyboard to see what key I'm... well, grab on the thing, grab. No, don't. What are you doing? What are you? Okay, I have to activate the RCS back again. Up a little. This is... I'll just show you what it's like when you do EVA, because normally they just cling to the outside. And no, that's the... Oh, for goodness sake, that's the wrong thing. It's so good at this, you guys. This is why I leave... at least if you bump into something, it's not like it's going to immediately kill him. And there's like enough fuel and enough time to actually like fine-tune your way back. But doing this with two hurtling spacecraft that are full of, you know, deadly fuel, it's like you can see why I use the grab. Go back inside. Okay, I can breathe again. I don't want to lose my first ever Kerbinaut just because I was... Oh my god. Anyway, yeah, this thing is a lander. It does science. It goes to the outer moon. It's got a docking port. It's got various bits. It's actually got quite a lot of parts, but it's been a fairly reliable design. Back to Space Center. Well, I think I've only got 2 other things in orbit at the moment, so yeah, this is going to be a half-hour video, isn't it? I was like, I'll just do a quick 15-minute video, and no, I end up talking for half an hour because I apparently can't stop blathering. We've seen Kier Alpha. We'll have a look at... I think that's the only other thing, actually. It also marks down flags, so we can see there. That was my first Kerbin to walk on another world. Well, a worldlet. And that's the very first suborbital flight. But anyway, we're getting sidetracked. This is the only other thing in orbit at the moment, because that's just a fuel tank. Well, this is just a fuel tank as well, but this is my orbital fueling depot. And I was so pleased when I discovered how to shift fuel around, because I couldn't figure out how you do it. I was throwing away half full fuel tanks back into the atmosphere kind of thing. But no, I eventually figured out that you can, by looking it up, basically, I think I found it on Reddit or somewhere, that you can shift fuel between different tanks on different spacecraft. You can basically dock a spacecraft to this, and yeah, it's at the moment full of fuel. So it doesn't have any personnel. It's entirely unmanned. It's got a couple of solar panels, a couple of batteries, a couple of RCS ports, and this is the docking ports I was using that were kind of slightly bugging out the autopilot, because you've got 3 different control points embedded in one docking port, and I think it was getting slightly confused. It was exactly the same on the front end, but I retrofitted it by sticking on a one of these triple connectors, so something can come up here and dock onto that, but because it's so long it can wobble around a fair bit, so I need to come up with a better design. This is just the low Earth, the low Kerbin orbit fueling station for, I don't know, when I eventually have a fleet of space tugs to clear that debris away. Because if we actually just look quickly back at the Space Center, and we can see the here we go. So that's just stuff that's non-debris. That's stuff that is debris. So you can see it does build up. That's kind of annoying actually. Scrolling. That's obviously not context sensitive yet. That's something they need to, that's a fairly minor thing. But hey, it's an alpha. So some of this stuff is on the ground, but a lot of it is actually just floating around in orbit. And I actually need to. Stuff like this, if it's on the ground, you can just go recover. Okay, but at the moment you have to basically do it individually for every single piece of debris. I think stuff on the ground, I'm not sure if it eventually kind of despawns, it might do, but stuff in orbit doesn't. So that stuff is all potentially a hazard to stuff that's also floating around, because look at all this. These are all small bits of debris, but that could still be enough to, if you smashed a spacecraft into that, that's going at over 2,000 meters a second. That's going at 2.2 kilometers a second. So if it intersected an spacecraft that was going at a significantly slower velocity, then pow! I don't know how well this game models that kind of kinetic energy, but again, I think on Reddit, I read a thread, a post where somebody was talking about their debris situation, and somebody else said, yeah, I basically recreated gravity, in that they had they were creating a ComSat network with that particular mod that I can't remember the name of, had a lot of failed launches, didn't really pay it any heed, didn't clear up the debris, and before they knew it, they'd lost everything because there was just a massive cascade event and their ring of satellites got completely smashed to smithereens. So that is a thing you have to consider that's already in the game, and I quite like that. So there we go, Kerbal Space Program. I wish that's kind of like this is a fun game. I have actually been absent largely from tanks for the last few days just because I've been playing this an awful lot. And I kind of need to get some moderation back in there. I need to do other things than just play Kerbal Space Program. But it's a measure of how fun the game is, that even though it's kind of a bit buggy, even though it crashes from time to time, even though there's a lot of stuff that just isn't in there yet, it's still incredibly fun to play. So yeah, I can definitely see myself sticking with this one in the same way that I've stuck with Minecraft and stuck with World of Tanks. So yeah. If you would like to see more videos, do let me know below. If there's popular demand, I don't know. I might fit in a series of this somehow. I would have to somehow come up with a goal, a quest, something that I could do. Because that's pretty much the best way to play this game at the moment, is set yourself goals and try and meet those goals. Because the game doesn't really reward you for stuff otherwise. It's all about self-reward, and in that way, like I've said, a lot like Minecraft. So if you even had a suggestion for something I could do, then you can say so in the comments below. If you like this video, you can hit the like button, you can Subscribe to my channel, you can check out my other videos and my Facebook page. And of course, as always, stay tuned for more.